To Robert Turbin, though. He's been on the show a couple of times. He's always a fun guy, especially because local guy. Like, all of our listeners go crazy every time Robert Turbin comes on because apparently everybody like who you ever went to high school with apparently all listens to this show, Robert. Do you know that?
You know what? It's starting to materialize. Everybody starts to hit me up now. So, you feel me? Maybe I should get a little portion of the show because all my guys and friends are listening to the show because of me.
Wow.
No,
wow.
come on in, Robert.
That was aggressive.
That was a joke.
No. Now you're not wrong. Shout out Irvington High and all the great people down 880. And when we do Donut Friday, we'll give you the first pick in the draft if you come in studio.
There we go. But I'm hearing some talk about LeBron and the Warriors, man. You guys don't like that fit?
Well,
I'm out, Robert. I'm out.
Like we've always not liked it because it's like, wait a minute. We've been down the road before of bringing in a hired gun to the organic nature of the core, and while it was very successful, it just doesn't feel as good as when they win it on their own. You know what I mean?
You know what? I'm with you on that 100%, actually. I really am. Because last season, that felt like all of them feel like real titles, but last season felt organic, and I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Robert Turbin with us, former Seahawk. You know what, Robert? Actually, your joke about getting some proceeds from our show just made me think of something that's completely separate from the Niners-Seahawks game, which we'll get to, but I'd love the player answer to this. What is your take on what's happening with Lamar Jackson? And if you were a Raven player, and there was even a hint of the idea of you're sitting out because they're not doing you right financially, I've just wondered, because a player's looking at that going, yeah, Lamar, you're right. We got your back. We want everyone to get their money too. But at the same time, dude, are you sitting out on us when the playoffs get here? Like, how would you feel about that if you were his teammate?
Yeah, that's a tough one right there. It's a slippery slope. I've been through that a couple times with a couple teammates of mine when I was in Seattle. Earl Thomas held out for a time. Marshawn threatened to retire because of a contract dispute with the Seahawks at one point. And, those are two players that we obviously needed to be able to have the success that we had. And this is a different situation because we're talking about this playoff. This is winning time. This is opportunity to get a championship. There's so many players. We're talking about the Bay Area. A guy like Frank Gore, who I played with in Indianapolis, 16 years in the league, third all-time in rushing in the history of the NFL, never won a title. And he would trade all the stats. I've talked to him about it. He traded all the stats in tears talking about it just to win a title, man. So it's a slippery slope, but at the end of the day, man, the business side of it is the business side of it. And as players, especially in today's day and age, I think we are comfortable and understand that more than anything. So as a teammate, I'm looking at the Ravens more than I'm looking at Lamar. Like, bruh, what are you guys doing? Get our quarterback paid so we can get on the field and have a better chance of winning the title.
Yeah, because there's almost no chance to win a title with their current situation. Not to say that a third stringer can't make noise, and that leads us to the 49ers and their third stringer, Brock Purdy, who's now the first stringer. As a player, if you see a third stringer come on the field, what's your first thought as a teammate offensively?
As a teammate offensively? Oh, man, my first thought is, listen, I got your back, number one, wholeheartedly. Like, don't go out here trying to do too much. You've been playing football your whole life. You got this, and guess what? Man, you got the big dogs right here behind you as well, man. So anytime a backup is in there, second string, third string, that's always the mindset, just to know that, listen, the weight is not all on your shoulders right now. And if you watch how the 49ers play, obviously that's how they play the game regardless of what quarterback is in there.
Robert Turbin here is with us on Willard and Dibs, 95.7 The Game. It's an obvious question, but we have to have it from someone who put on a Seahawks uniform. Be real now, Robert. What kind of what? I know you are. That's what. So, what kind of chance do the Seahawks actually have?
You know what? I think listen, chances are there's still a chance. All right, that's my favorite quote, my favorite movie of all time, loving basketball. There is, because it's a game of football, it's a sport, and we've seen it before. We saw the Bengals go to the Super Bowl, right? Being the 6th seed, and we saw. The Seahawks historically, they went up against the number 1 seed New Orleans Saints, and you had the Beastquake and all that kind of stuff. So there's always a chance, but I do believe that the 49ers are a better team, and I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be a really good game. I think the elements are going to affect that a little bit, but, wouldn't be surprised if Seattle found a way to win. But, if you're asking me to bet my money on it, I got the 49ers.
What does Seattle need to do other than generate a bunch of turnovers and get the ball to bounce their way? How does Seattle come into Levi's and find a way to take apart this Niner team for 4 quarters and get the win?
Well, what the Niners do so well is that they're a balanced offense, right? Let's take away the defense for a second because we know that they're great defensively. But offensively, they're balanced, and they got a bunch of guys that can get the ball to that can make a bunch of plays, and their running game is consistent. And when you get into playoff football, obviously we talk about defense, we got to stop the run, but, man, you got to be able to run the ball. And for the Seahawks, throughout the season, it's kind of been up and down, right? There'll be 2, 3, maybe 4 games. Kenneth Walker in that running game, man, it gets going. All right, then they kind of go on a lull, right? They can't get the run game. You know, teams are defending it well. And then the last 3 games, all right, Kenneth Walker's rushed for over 100 yards in the last 3. They've gotten it going. That's got to be the key. It can't be all on Geno's shoulders. You can't expect him to throw the ball for, over 300 yards if you want to beat the 49ers. You got to get the ground game going.
Robert, I'm looking at Brock Purdy and Geno Smith for both of them. First playoff game. Go back to your first playoff game. What did it feel like? How was it different?
The atmosphere was just totally different. Even the wild card game from which used to be week 17, right? Last game of the season, going into that next week into a playoff game, man, the atmosphere completely changes. More cameras, more media, more attention. The hype is real. And it changes. And, for a guy like Geno and for a rookie, especially like Brock Purdy, they're going to get an opportunity to see that difference.
How much does playoff experience at the quarterback position play into expectations? Because Mark and I were talking about it. Tom Brady's got 35 playoff wins, but not much else in the NFC in terms of playoff experience and playoff victories. Does that allow Geno Smith and Brock Purdy to have much more of an even footing going in?
I think so. I think playoff experience can be overrated in some instances. I think that when those fourth quarter opportunities come around and you talk about those critical moments throughout a football game in the playoffs, I think that's really where experience matters most. But, I think about our team that won the title and, essentially for a lot of guys, that was their second time ever being in the playoffs. You know what I mean? So, the experience is it matters in some cases, but not really overall. And I think that it gives the opportunity for Geno and a guy like Brock Purdy to go out there and let it loose, man. Go play ball.
Robert, I wonder what your insight into this coaching matchup would be. Like Pete Carroll getting ready for a playoff game. He saw the bee's knees again because he took this team to the playoffs. What does he give or not give to a playoff team in this situation?
He gets all his teams confidence. There's one thing Pete Carroll is great at, man, is helping you play at your absolute best. Whatever your highest potential is, he's there to help you reach that. He wants you to play free and just fly around. There's no pressure with Pete. It's not like, we're in the playoffs now, there's this added pressure. Nope. He's still riding around the facility in a scooter. He's still showing funny videos in team meetings. We still shooting the basketball around in team meetings as well. Nothing changes with Pete. We're going to game plan. We're going to do our stuff. And we're going to go out there and get ready to win a football game.
Kenneth Walker's come back from injury, the rookie, and really started to tear things up on the ground. What's your expectation for Walker against the best run defense in football?
I don't have high expectations for Kenneth Walker in this football game, if I'm being honest. He's a young player. He still has a lot to learn. And at times, for lack of a better way to describe it, he's a little herky-jerky with what he wants to do with the football. What he's done well the last 3 games, other than the schematical side of it from the offensive coordinator, he's made his decisions quickly. Early in the season, he was second-guessing himself at times. He was looking for that big run all the time. And as running backs, you have to be okay with taking 3. Take 3, boom, and then you'll be able to break a big one eventually. So for Kenneth, he has to be decisive in his decision-making as a runner, and that's going to help him produce and be effective in his football game.
Is he the rookie of the year, or is it Brock Purdy, or are you off the board with Garrett Wilson?
I know Brock Purdy stepped in and he did an amazing job, but it's not Brock to me. Kenneth obviously is in the conversation because of what he was able to do. But I got to go with Wilson out there in New York. Three different quarterbacks. Whoever the quarterback was he was out there doing his thing. And if you watch him in this last game, I mean, he had a fantastic game in that finale. And so to me, he's the offensive rookie of the year.
I think I agree with you on that as far as how that vote's going to end up going, even though he's not the favorite right now. Robert, great stuff. We always love having you. Checks in the mail.
All right, fellas. Take care.
There it is.